Hello, everybody. Welcome to this new YouTube channel. I've never done anything like this before, so you're going to have to bear with me while I find my sea legs. So let me know in the comments how I do. Anyway, without further ado, let's dig right in. Today we're playing a game called Lords and Villains. It's a game by the studio Honesty Games, and as far as I'm aware, it's made by only one person, which, if true, is pretty impressive. Anyway, this is a population simulator game, and I've been absolutely obsessed with it. According to Steam, I have upwards of 150 hours on it already. So let's just go ahead and dig right in. So actually, before we go there, so what you want to do first is you want to create a family. Now, I like to have one, you have your one ruler, and you pick, you could pick their hair and their clothes and all that fun stuff. Doesn't really matter. And I like to give them 3 children, and you'll see why later. But anyway, so we have High Lady Charlotte Bridgerton. We're going with the last name Bridgerton because I watched too much of that TV show. So High Lady Charlotte Bridgerton and her 3 children, Lady Star Bridgerton, Lady Matiana Bridgerton, and Lady Winter Bridgerton. And they just sort of stay this. You can switch them. They don't really matter. But the amount of children and stuff kind of matters. You'll see. We'll get there. Anyway, there are all these campaigns you can play through, but I'm just going to go ahead and play a custom game here. So, I like to, you give your settlement a name. Let's call it, Ribbleton. And, the royalty, king or queen, it just depends on your preference for, the art here. All this stuff can stay pretty standard. This is how long each of your villains, each of your people will live in your town, how long each season lasts, and how long each day lasts. I'm just going to leave all that stuff blank. There is some stuff down here that you can toggle to get more, locals are very religious, miners, different professions will show up more often, caravans will visit more often. I'm just going to leave all this stuff turned off, except for this one right here. For a limited time, the mood and happiness of all is improved. Just gives you just a little bit of boost in the early game to sort of make your life a little bit easier. And some of these down here at the end are fun. Like this is, villagers commonly organize uprisings regardless of your reputation, right? Some of these make your life harder, so you could play your life on hard mode if you want. But we're gonna keep everything standard for this first run right here. For the map, I'm gonna go with 192, 192. It's the biggest size you can get without being in these experimental sizes. I've never played with these, but maybe one day. So we're going to go with the fields terrain type. It's probably the easiest terrain type there is. I think it's intended to be the easiest. Forest is, and you can see here, so the sort of light area is fields, the dark area is forests, the blue is rivers, and then the dark area is mountains. So you can see fields and forests are basically the same, just one has more forests. Hills, again, there's not too much of a difference here, actually, but I think that's supposed to include more mountains. I guess this has 2 mountains, this has 2 mountains, this has 3, and that one's a little bigger. So there you go. Islands is obviously going to give you a lot more water. This, I imagine, would be a very difficult map to play on because of how much you're going to have to economically use your land. Lakes looks interesting. It looks like fields with just bigger lakes. I've actually never gone through and compared them like this before, so this is first time for both of us. Mountains, I guess, is even more than hills. Yeah, I guess that's that. Swamp is pretty tough because it's a lot of forests and water and stuff. The last map I played was actually a swamp map, and it was fun, but it's definitely tough when you start filling out your land. And then you can go custom and start changing all these settings. We're just going to go with a standard fields map. Nothing crazy. We're going to leave everything as it is. Maybe let's... No, I like this. Okay. As for the difficulty, we're going to leave everything on just your standard difficulty. Now, let's look at the modules here. So, these, I believe that this quote-unquote standard way to play the game is with resource tax and soldier requests, and everything else is like this. Yes, I believe these are the standard default settings. I like to play with limited Sunday Mass because peasants are randomly excused without penalty from attending Sunday Mass if your population is pretty high. And, you know, I feel like that's fine to include because as you'll see later, building a big enough church for that is annoying. We probably won't get there in this video, but we're just going to leave it on. And then for the sake of this video, I'm going to take away resource tax and soldier requests because I just want to sort of showcase how this game like shines as a population sim, and this is like a how do I want to say this? Like a function or a mechanic in the game that sort of forces you to grow quickly every year and can make your life pretty difficult if you don't manage it well. So we're going to just go ahead and leave that off for now. Maybe in a future video, if anybody watches these, I'll play it. Well, I'll play with some of these more difficult modules activated. So these are going to be your starting families. Now, you always want to start with a really big farming family and a really big foraging family, and you'll see why later. The sort of standard way to play is to start with a small fishing family, and we're just going to go ahead and do that. I have dabbled with starting with like a medium or large size carpentry family up front. But we're not going to do that. We're going to go do this. So yeah, let's get this started. Going to take a minute to load up here. I'm trying to look at my recording situation over here to see if it tells me how long it took me to get through pressing the button to actually start the game. And about almost 7 minutes. So I'm going to say not too bad for the intro. All right, here we go. Hi, Lady Charlotte Bridgerton. You have been chosen to join the ranks of my closest vassals to take care of the lands I've given you. It is of the highest importance that you fulfill your duties and serve me to bring wealth and prosperity to our kingdom. By confirming, you shall certify your oath of fealty. Best of luck on your journey. Let's confirm. So I'm going to go ahead and just pause the game right out the bat here because these people are going to start moving around and doing stuff, and it kind of annoys me a little bit that that they move around and do stuff when there's kind of like basically nothing for them to move around and do. Actually, you know what? We'll keep it on the lowest speed right there. So let's take a look at what we got here. So we got a lot of forest. This is really nice. We got a nice big mountain up here. So when we get our miners up and running, they can start chopping away at that. We got like a little lake over here, which is pretty nice. Maybe we can put our fishers over here. So what we need, what we want to start doing is we want to look at our villagers, right? So we have the farmers, the foragers, and the fishers. The farmers they're going to farm. The foragers are going to forage in the forest for us, and the fishers are going to collect fish for us. Now, food is like the only super important resource in this entire game. So you want to get your food families up and running as quickly as possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to design, so you can, what you're going to do is you're going to be designing houses for your little villains. And look at this, they're all standing around, they're just wandering around, just the little villains. And you can sort of inspect them, right? We got 2, 4, 6 people in our farming family, 2, 4, 6, 8 people in our foraging family, and just 2 here in our fishing family. So let's go ahead and build a house for the fishers. Now we're going to go with a hay wall because it's the most basic wall type. We can upgrade all this stuff later, but just for now. And what we want to do is we want to make enough room for, let's see. So there's going to be like a corner right there. That's going to be long enough for a bed. Let's put a walkway and then a far wall over here. So let's just make that sort of the first basic footprint of this house that we're going to construct for our fishing family. What we're going to do is we're going to zone it as a household. So we're going to draw this zone here like this. And when we do that, we can click on it and it'll sort of tell us what's required furniture, required structures, required storage. Not all of this stuff is actually required. So let me sort of guide you through what we're actually going to be using. Well, first of all, we have 2 people, so you can either build single beds or double beds. I'm going to go ahead and build them a double bed. And I assume that they're married, so it won't be weird to make them sleep in the bed together. Honestly, I don't usually pay attention to that. The villagers will sleep wherever is available, but you can see here that this is they are indeed married. You can see this person is married to Nestoria, who we got here, Dalmatius, and Nestoria is married to Dalmatius. Makes sense. And you can see that she married into the family, right? And he was already part of the fairy family. All right, so back to the house building. So what we're going to do is we're going to give them a cauldron, a cooking table, and you use Q and E. When I first started playing this game, I did not know how to turn things like this, and it confused me for a while. But the letters Q and E on your keyboard will allow you to rotate objects as you place them. So we give them a cauldron, cooking table, a well. Let's place that outside over here. And you can edit zones. So like I'm clicking on the household zone and then going to this edit right here. We're going to give them just like this, just a little extra space here in front. We're going to give them like a little patio area. I think that'll be nice. And a wooden block. Excellent. And then we're going to give them one of every storage type. So let's give them small shelves. Let's give them a small barrel. Let's give them let's put the ground depository outside here. We're going to give them drawers, and we're going to give them a chest. Look at that. Perfect. We had just the right length for everything. So what we're going to do then is we're going to fill out the rest of these walls here. Boop, boop. Let's leave space for a door right there. And then we'll put a wooden door right here. And then, so how building works in this game is you are the royal family, right? Maybe I should have started here. You are the ruler and this is your royal family. And it is your job to make this society work. Basically through like resource management, right? So when you create construction orders like this, right? What's going to happen is if you have laborers, your laborers will begin construction on those orders. And in fact, what I'm going to do real quick, so the game starts you off with 2 laborers and 2 day guards. Your day guards, they'll sort of protect, they'll break up fights. Sometimes your citizens will fight. Sometimes people will steal things. They'll catch criminals and stuff. But you usually don't have to worry about that early in the game. So I'm actually going to make these day guards my servants to give me more laborers because they'll get the job done more quickly now. So what happens when you create construction orders is that your laborers will come over and they will start building whatever you tell them to. However, if you assign this household to a family, then it will be that family's responsibility to do everything in this zone. Your laborers won't even look at it anymore. So sometimes it's beneficial to create a zone and put all the construction orders in it and let your laborers sort of do all the orders because they will consume your resources, and this is a list of all the resources that you have over here to fill those construction orders, right? So like you can see here that each hay wall costs 3 straw, right? And I have 965 straw. Now we can go to the fairy family and look at their inventory, and we can see that they have no straw. All they have is some money and some food. So they wouldn't be able to fulfill these construction orders. And to illustrate that for the next house we build, I'll assign it right away, and then we can see them not building their own house. But we're going to go ahead and just assign this right now to the fairy family. And we'll deal with the resources later. For now, I just want to get all of the footprints of our buildings down, and we can worry about getting those buildings built up later. What we're going to do is we're going to change this to, and I'm gonna mispronounce this word, Frankalmon. In my head, it's frankly Amon. I don't know. I can't even say it. We're going to change it to that, and that just so there's different when you assign a family to a zone. There's different ways that you can sort of tax them, right? So a fee farm is each season they just pay you straight up money, and that's call it rent. You know, that's basically rent. This one, Franco Mion, is granted free for the most holy purposes. So the fairy family gets to live in this house completely for free. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to give them a fishing pool. So you can see that here at the fishing pool, it says required profession fishing. So only fishing families will make decent use of a fishing pool. So we're going to go ahead and put this right here. And there's only 2 of them, so it doesn't need to be that big. Let's give them, let's say, 2 fishing rods and a couple fishing nets. Now, when you're building stuff, you want to pay attention to what's required. So you can see here the cost to build a fishing rod is 4 wood and 1 yarn. Now remember, our fishing family here, we just looked at their inventory. They don't have any wood or yarn, so they cannot build these things. So there's a couple ways we can go about solving this problem. One is like I don't have any wood either, so I can't even build it, but I do have yarn. So if I were to acquire some wood, and we'll get there, if I were to acquire some wood, I could leave this fishing pool unassigned, and eventually when I have the required resources, my laborers will go build this stuff. But that's not how we're going to solve this problem. We're going to go ahead and just assign this to the fishing family. And as you can see, when it's not a household zone, you have a few more options here for how you can assign it. So we already saw this one is free and this one is basically rent. So this one, they would pay us to be able to work this fishing farm. Stewardry is interesting. It's you pay them and they give you all the resources. So in this case, I would get 100% of the fish that they fish and they get paid to work in the fishing zone. I prefer to go with sockage. So what sockage is they give me a percentage of what they produce each season, and they keep the rest to sell or consume, whatever they want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and I like to do a 20-10, so 20% for me and 10% for the clergy. Now we don't currently have a clergy. I just like doing this up front so that I don't have to go back and change all my zones when we get a clergy, right? And you can see here, resources taxed for clergy will remain unpaid unless you have a bishop and quarters zone. So for the time being, the fairy family is only going to be paying 20% of their resources per season to me. When we eventually get a clergy, that's going to go up to 20% for me and 10% for the clergy. But they're not going to have, the fairies aren't going to have to worry about that for a few seasons at least. It's going to take us probably deep into year 3 before we get a proper clergy. But we'll see, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we can get there more quickly. All right, so we have our fishing family set up with a household and a fishing pool. That's all they need. We can leave them, well, that's not all they need, but that's basically all they need. And we can leave them alone for a little while and they'll be fine. Now they do need 4 planks to build this. They need 3, 6, call it 15 straw to build those walls, and they need some sticks and some yarn for the fishing rods and for the fishing nets, which require 8 yarn. So that's 8, 16, and then 17. So they need 18 total yarn. So there's a few ways that we could give them this yarn. One is we could open our warehouse book here. We could go to the fairy family and we could just give them, see here, look at that. It even says they want to buy 18 yarn. So we could just give them 18 yarn. Or we can go into the trade screen here and we can find yarn. So here's our yarn. So this is every possible resource in the game you can see in this trade screen right here. And what you can do is you can define how you want this to be traded by your royal family to the locals and to the caravans. And we'll talk about the caravans when we get there, but right now let's just focus on the locals. So we know that one of our families needs yarn. So we're going to set this to sell to the locals. And I'm going to sell all my yarn because I don't need yarn for anything. And these fishing nets will break. And in fact, anything will break over time and you'll need these same sorts of resources to repair it. So these people are going to need more yarn over time. I think also that because we know that they need straw, so let's sell straw, but we don't want to sell all our straw. And we'll get to why we want to save some for ourselves, but let's only sell, let's say let's sell 350 straw on the local market. So my royal family will sell 350 of their straw into the local market as demand is created for it, right? So the fishing family is probably going to be buying some straw pretty soon to build up their stuff here. Now, this is important. And in order to sell on the local market, you need to have a warehouse zone, and in that warehouse zone you need to have a storefront. Now anytime you start a game, you will already have this warehouse zone. It's the only zone that you get for free, with all these buildings in it for free, and with a storefront for free. You get all this stuff at the start of every game, so you'll already have that. But it's something to keep in mind if you ever want to move it, if you ever accidentally delete it and like you're not selling things on the local market and you can't figure out why. Check your warehouse, make sure there's a storefront in there, and make sure that you have at least one laborer free to man the storefront. You can see right here, Layla Fade, one of my servants, a laborer, is currently handling the storefront, right? If you don't have a laborer to handle the storefront, you won't be able to sell on the local market. So I hope that explains what's going on here. I know that this is kind of a deep dive into this game, but that's why I wanted to make this video, to do a deep dive into this game and to sort of give you like an explanation of like every move and what to look out for and why we're doing the things that we're doing. So now this is something that's that I want to show you real quick. So what you can do is once you build a zone, you can create a template from it right here, and you can say like this is house 00. And save the template, and then you can come over here and you can see I've already created quite a few of these, but you could just take this and just plop it wherever, so you don't have to draw the walls and all that stuff every single time, because that can get kind of annoying. I wanted to build that house to sort of illustrate to you like, you know, like this is what you need to look for, these are the things that you need, here's how you build a house. But I actually already have some templates done, so I'm gonna go ahead and use my basic small house template right here. I'm just going to go ahead and plop this down right here by the forest. Now, this is going to be for our foraging family, the St. Quens, the St. Ovens, the St. Wens. We're going to go with the St. Ovens because that's just more fun to say. We're going to give it to them for free. They just get to live in the house rent free. And then we're going to give them a royal forest zone. And you can see here, required profession for the royal forest is foraging. And you can see here that this family's profession is foraging. So we're going to give them this royal forest zone, and we're just going to make it just like that. Easy peasy. We're going to give this to the St. Ovens. Again, I like to do this 2010 tax. I don't even know. Dividend? No, dividend's the wrong word. Ratio. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to edit the zone a little bit, and I'm going to bring it out here like this. And so there's 8 people in the family. So what you need in a royal forest is sawhorses. Now you can see sawhorses take 1 wood and produce 3 planks. So we're going to give them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're out of room a little bit. So here's what we're going to do. If there's ever if you ever need more room and there's trees or something in the way, what you can do is you can come down here to the floors area and pick this dirt path, and then draw a dirt path over the entire area that you want, and they will cut down all the trees to create that dirt path for you, and it'll just give you just a little bit more space. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's going to be just the amount of space that we need to fit all the sawhorses that we want there. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to give them a storefront. Now, every family will produce something, and they will sell it at a storefront that they have access to. Now, they won't be able to use the storefront in the warehouse because that's for your royal family. So we can either give them their own storefront, or we can build a marketplace, which is going to be shared storefronts. We'll get to that. We'll get to that shortly here. But I like to give them all their own storefronts, so I'm going to go ahead and give the St. Ovens here their own storefront. And actually, that reminds me over here in the fishing area, and you can see here. Look at this. They actually built their fishing nets. They must have bought that Must have bought that yarn from me. See that? Looks like they haven't built the rods, though. Oh, because they don't have any wood. But they will get wood once these foragers get up and running, because the foragers, the Royal Forest, you can see over here on the right side, produces wood rods. So they're going to be producing wood rods pretty shortly here. And when they do, they will sell it at their storefront, the St. Ovens, to the fairies, the fishers, who will use it to build their fishing rods. Oh yeah, right. I wanted to come over here because I actually forgot to give them a storefront too. So let's go ahead and pop that right. Let's edit this zone, give it just a little bit more space, and let's put the storefront right here. This always confused me for a while. The red side is where the people who are manning the storefront will stand, the red arrow. And the green arrow is where the people who are buying will stand. It doesn't really matter which way you face it, but I don't know. I like to. It makes sense in my head that like the people who are manning it would stand on this side here, and then the people who come to buy stuff would like walk over and buy it. It doesn't actually matter, but you know, it's fun as a game. Anyway, let's get our farmers up and running. So let's take a look at this farming family real quick. 2, 4, so family size of 6 people. So they're going to need quite a bit of space. They're going to need quite a bit of land to farm on. So let's go ahead and give them a house. Now, this is actually something else to think about. So you can see here, this household here, which we saved as template house 00, it only has a 1 bed in it. And the bed fits 2 people. So this house can sleep 2 people. But for a bigger family, you'd want more beds. I actually messed up a little bit over here because this family, the St. Ovens, they have 8 people. And this little house I gave them can only sleep 5. Now, I can replace this bed right here with a double bed, but it still only sleeps 6. What I used to do is like manually destroy parts of the house and expand it and like build room for more beds. But what I've taken to doing lately is just giving them a second house. So let's give them house 00. No, let's just give them another basic house. Ooh, sorry, that's a big one. Basic house small. Can we just stick this right here? I'm gonna say yes. Yeah, we can overlap them a little bit like this because the walls are both there, and I lined up the door so it's just gonna work. It's just gonna work just fine. Let's go ahead and give this to the St. Ovens, and we'll give it to them for free. So now they have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Now they can sleep like 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 people. And the bigger families, they will have children and grow eventually. So you do gotta keep in mind sometimes that you want to build houses, especially for bigger families, with room to grow. Anyways, back to the farmers. So the farmers only have 6 people, but like we just noticed, this original house, even expanding it, the basic house template that I have, can only fit 6 people max. And even if we look at this house here, we could see that, so there's something else to keep in mind. When you're building your beds, you can see that it has these red arrows. As long as any one of those red arrows is not like the space that it takes is not like taken up by something else, like here, like the cooking table and wooden block on the left side are in the way, but on the right side, those spaces are open. As long as at least one of those spaces is open, people can get into the bed. So like putting it here, I shouldn't do that because then the bed that already exists would be inaccessible. So I could put it like here, for example. And if I did, there'd be room for one more single bed over here. So that's 2, 4, 5. So this house can really also max only fit 5 people. So when I'm thinking about building a house for my farmers who already have 6 people, I probably don't want to use my existing templates for house 00, which we just saved, or the one that I already had, basic house small. But I do have this one, basic house good, which is quite, as you can see, quite a bit larger. It has a much larger footprint. But it's good for bigger families. So I think we're going to go ahead and use this one, and we're going to go ahead and stick it right up here in the corner. I don't like to put things like straight up against like barriers like this, like the water, or like right up against. I know I did it a little bit over here, but I wanted to make it fit with this house. Like I put it up against the mountain here, but I wanted to make it line up. So I just went ahead and did it. But usually I try to avoid that. And that's because it can just kind of get annoying when they're building it sometimes. Like they'll get stuck in the walls. They'll like do it in the wrong order. And so and anyway, this gives us a little space so they can go around the building once it's constructed. I know I'm probably not using all of the available space like perfectly optimally by not putting it flush up against the river, but it's fine. I think we can get away with a little bit of a imperfect optimization. So we're going to go ahead and give this to the Raincourt family, our farmers. And our farming family is going to be, our farming families, because we're going to end up with many, many more than just one, are going to be the most important families altogether, because they will be feeding our entire society. And food is like the only resource that if you don't have enough of, you will lose this game. And you lose this game when people starve to death. Because they don't have food. So it's pretty important that we get our farmers up and running as quickly as possible, and that they have everything that they need to do their jobs. So let's go ahead and get some farmland ready to go for them. So I'm not actually quite sure how the most optimal way to build a farm in this game. If you go on like the wiki, or if you go on like the Steam like discussions, I've seen a lot of different people say different things about how to optimally farm. I'm just going to go ahead and do it the way that I've been doing it. That's been working for me. And if you want to tell me in the comments that I'm an idiot and I'm doing it wrong, then like that's fine. So anyway, the way I've been doing it is looking at the size of the family. So we have 6 people in the family, and I'm going to give each of them a 6x6 square of farmland. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. We'll put another one. 1, 2, 3. We'll put another one here, and another one here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did I do that right? How big is this? 12 by 12. How am I doing this wrong? There we go. Okay. Yeah. So we have 1 6x6, 2 6x6, 3, 4, 5, 6 6x6 areas of farmland for the Raincourt household. And so all of this is going to become farming soil for them. We're just gonna fill it all in with farming soil. Now this isn't going to be the only thing that our farm is, but this is how it's going to start. Let's go ahead and assign this to the Raincourts. I have definitely done that before, where I like build out a whole zone and forget to assign it, and it sits there unused for an embarrassing amount of time. So don't forget to assign your zones, folks. So now this is the Raincourt's zone. They'll get working on it when they get working on it. We're gonna go ahead and actually edit this zone and expand it down here a little bit to give them some space, because farms need more than just the farming soil. They're going to need a flailing spot. And I'll get into what all this stuff does. It is really important to understand how your farms work and like why they work the way that they do. So I'm going to try my best to like really explain everything that's going on here with the farm. I tend to do like there's 6 people in the household, so we'll give them 6 flailing spots. This isn't going to be an animal farm. This is just going to be a crop farm. So we're going to skip the churn. We're going to skip the chicken bed. We're going to skip the outdoor feeder. We'll give them an orchard, but we're going to skip the trees for now. So really all they need is the flailing spot. They're going to need some storage. So you can see here, by the way, when you're building your storages, there's different tier levels. Like, so you can see a barrel holds 150 kilograms of material, and you can see what it stores here: acorns, blueberries, corn, all that stuff. If we go down a tier, a small barrel only holds 100 kilograms. The reason that you'd ever build a smaller one is because the larger ones require an architect to build, a carpenter to build, and we don't have a carpenter yet. So we're going to have to stick with the small ones for now. So let's go ahead and give them, let's call it 3 barrels. We'll give them a few silos and some ground depositories. Let's just put a little line of those right here. And that's probably all they need. You can ignore it here when it says required storages. I don't know why they would need Shelves, really, I guess unless it's an animal farm for like the milk and eggs, but I usually just keep that stuff in the house anyway. So they will use, like, if they have storage they need for the farm and they have space in their house, they'll just use the space in their house, or vice versa. Any family will basically use whatever is available to them across the zones that they own. So you don't have to worry too much about, like, oh, well, I have shelves in this zone but not in this zone, stuff like that. So yeah, so this farm is looking pretty good. We're gonna just go ahead and just let them build that up. And you can see here where, we're our straw is being consumed as they're buying it from us to build their houses. So things are working out the way that we want them to. Let's actually return over here. I almost forgot. We wanted to give them 2 more sawhorses. Yeah, 2, 4, 6, 8, because there's 8 of them. So these guys are looking pretty good over here. I think we can leave them alone for a while. Let's go back to the farm. So the way that farming works, okay, and so this is something that you're going to want to pay attention to with most of your zones, but especially with farms. And this is the just priorities button right here. So you can see, like, these are things that they can possibly produce. Now, we're not on an orchard, so we're not going to have them producing apples. We're not on an animal farm, so we don't need butter or cheese, and pears also come from trees, so we're not going to do that. So we're just going to have them producing grain and rice grain. Now, this can be a little misleading because that's not the only thing that they're going to produce. I'm not actually quite sure why it's organized this way. I think because these are like secondary products, maybe, even though apples and pears feel like primary products because you just pick them right off a tree, and rice grain because you just grow the rice. Again, I'm not actually sure why it's organized this way, but this is the way that it's organized. And so for a strictly crop farm, I'm going to turn everything off but grain and rice grain. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to come down here to the soil. And you can see when you first start your farm, all of these are set to 0. So they're not actually going to be planting anything until you come in here and mess with this. And this goes for every single farm that you build. This will not default for any of your farms. I like to take this, we'll talk about soil quality but later, but basically as you keep growing the soil over and over again, growing stuff in the soil over and over again, the quality of the soil will deteriorate and your yields will deteriorate. Will go down from there. So you want to leave some of it left to regenerate. I have never really tested, like, mathematically what the best thing to do here is. I've seen people post online that if you set it to like 25% and slowly lower it over time, eventually you could leave it at 0 and you'll never need to change it. I don't know how that works. I usually just set it to 10 and leave it at 10. I never think about it again. So what we're going to produce in the farm is going to change over time. Usually in the early game like this, I start out with cabbages, melons, potatoes, corn, parsnips, carrots, rice, and pumpkins. Now, let me explain why. You can see that cabbages, they grow cabbages. Melons grow melons. But if you look at barley here, you can see that it's not just barley. It produces 2 straw and 2 grain. So barley is like a primary resource that needs to be threshed here in the flailing spots to become useful. Now in the early game, what I find is that if I turn all of these on, the barley, the rye, you can see this produces 2 straw, 2 grain. The rye is 1 straw, 3 grain. The wheat is 2 and 2. The oats is 3 straw and 1 grain. If I turn all of them on, like the ratio, like the 1 to 1 to 1 to 1, just comes out with like way too much grain and straw, and we just do not need that much grain. Honestly, what it is we don't need that much grain because we can't make use of our grain until we get a baker to turn the grain into bread. So until we get a baker, grain is basically useless to us. So I like to turn all of these off except for the oats, because you can see here the oats are the ones that produce a greater straw to grain ratio, and we will be using straw to make all our houses. So I'm going to leave the one on that produces a lot of straw and just a little bit of grain. And I'm going to leave all the other straw / grain producing plants off because we just don't need them quite yet. I hope that makes sense. And we're gonna turn the trees off too, because they're not going to be planting any trees in this zone. They're going to be just farming. I hope that that makes sense. All right, let's move on. So we're actually going to give this farming family a second piece of farmland. We're going to stick it. Let's see. So what kind of tree is this here? I want to know what this is. This is okay. So this is a pear tree. So we actually already have a pear tree right there. So let's use that to our advantage. We're going to give them a second little plot of farmland here. Let's go ahead and stick it right here like this. Now I'm placing this pretty carefully, and I'll explain why. Because I wanted to get into this anyway, actually, with the soil quality. So you can see here the quality of soil basically across your entire land, right? Where we planted our farm is pretty good soil quality. You can actually even click on a spot here, and you can see this is good soil, right? Well, let's click on that soil quality again here real quick. Up here, this looks even better. Look at that perfect soil. Very fast growth speed, and we're going to get good yields out of that. Look at that. They already planted their carrots there. So that's looking pretty good. Now, if you look over here, you could see that where the forests are, the soil quality is actually pretty bad. And the way that this works is it actually expands to one space away from the forests. And what's going to happen is when you plant trees, that's going to kind of create like this forest floor area, and it's going to degrade the soil quality. So I tend to keep my, anywhere I'm going to be planting trees, 2 spaces away from any farm. So that, I know it's only 1 space that like you need to worry about, but I'm paranoid, I guess. So I keep it 2 spaces away. That you probably don't need to do that, but I do. Anyway. This little space of farmland right here is going to be our orchard. So we're just going to plant. So you can see here we have these trees, right, for planting seeds of trees. Trees grow faster in forests. That's fine. We're just going to go ahead and put like 3 lines of trees like this. Then we're going to give this to the rain quartz. We're going to do the same 20-10 ratio that we've been doing. And we're going to come in here. We're going to adjust the priorities. Now, for this one, we don't need butter or grain or cheese or rice grain, but we do need apples and pears. We don't need to turn any of this stuff on for the soil because we're not growing any of this stuff. And we're going to turn on both apple trees and pear trees. And you can see that each pear tree produces 10 pears and they're harvested in autumn. Each apple tree produces 10 apples and they are harvested in summer. So we're going to have harvests. Once the trees grow, we're going to have harvests at the end of summer and at the end of autumn of our apples and our pears. That was the one more thing I wanted to mention about soil management here. So you can see that some of these vegetables are out of season. So like usually, so like right now, our farm is producing one for every 1 plot of potato, it's planting 1 plot of parsnip, 1 plot of carrots, 1 plot of oat, and 1 plot of rice. So each 5th of the farm is getting 1 of these vegetables. It's going to be mixed in. They're not going to organize it, but that's how it works. It's not going to be accounting for anything that's out of season. So you can turn on the out of season stuff and they won't be like reserving space for something that can't be grown there. They're just going to ignore it. The ratios will adjust as things move in and out of seasons. That was something I wasn't sure about when I first started playing this game, but luckily it does work like that. So you don't have to be micromanaging your farms every single season. That would be incredibly annoying. So we're actually looking pretty good. We're like pretty well set up right now for at least for our first 3 families. We're pretty well set up for our first 3 families. But what about our demesne? What about our ruling family here? What about our nobles? They don't have a house. They don't have any beds. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing them dirty like that? That's simply not going to do. So what the royal family needs, now they're too good for households like all these peasants. No. They need a manor. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to give them the exact same house as all the peasants. Now, hold on. I actually kind of want to move because they're going to need the royal family's going to need a lot more space than the peasants do, even more than the farmers. So I think what I want to do is I want to build a bridge across the water here, and I'm going to set the royal family up over in this area here. We're going to give them like this whole like big corner area of our land. I think that that's going to be better for them. Yeah, and it's going to take them... So you're going to find in this game that sometimes you kind of have to just, like, wait around. Luckily, you can crank the speed up to 8 times while you're waiting. But if you're ever waiting for something to be built, like, for example, I'm waiting for this bridge, you can click on it, and you can see, like, this is priority 1, and it's waiting to be prioritized by a builder. And you can see my laborers are coming over to build it already. Luckily, they don't have anything else to do, so they're going to come over and construct this. And it looks like we've probably run out of... Because remember, we were only selling 350 straw on the local market to have our people build their houses, and it looks like we've probably hit that limit. We can even check here in the warehouse book. If we go to trade and then go back to straw, we can see we're currently selling 0. So we sold all 350 straw that we were going to sell. I'm actually not going to sell them any more straw right now because we're going to need it to build some houses for our royal family. And these guys are going to start producing straw pretty soon anyways. Let's see, there's the rice, there's the oats, right? And if we remember, the oats will produce 3 straw and 1 grain. So the farming family is going to start having, like, pumping straw into our economy pretty soon here. And so I think I'm going to hold on to my straw for now. Maybe after we build up our own houses and stuff, we can see how much we have left over, and we can reassess from there whether or not we want to sell a little more onto the local market. But for now, let's go ahead and hold on to what we have. I also almost forgot, I'm going to go ahead and give the farming family a storefront here, just so that they have a place to sell, their straw or their food or whatever else they produce. Now, these guys haven't built their storefront. Let's go ahead and prioritize that. So if you want something to be built quickly, you can set it. You could set the priority right here. Like you can see it changed it from 5 to 1 when I do that. I'm hoping that they do it soon because these families will need like planks to build, their drawers, their ground depositories, all this stuff that's not getting built. It looks like isn't getting built because they don't have planks. And planks come from, you can see right here, planks come from the royal forest, right? You can see it says on the rightmost column there, produces wood, planks, wood rods, mushrooms, blueberries, and clay. And we definitely want planks to build all this stuff that's just not getting built. So what actually you can do is you can come over here in the royal forest and you can adjust their priorities much like you could with the farms. And you can see here they're already prioritizing planks 4 times more than everything else. Kind of, because this is a 4 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 ratio. So think about it this way. The total of these numbers is 8, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 4 out of 8 is going to planks, right? So half of what they're producing is planks. And then 1/8 of what they're producing is wood, 1/8 is clay, 1/8 is mushrooms, and 1/8 is blueberries. So they are going to be producing planks. But if you ever see something like this and you're wondering like, okay, so I just saw that half of what these guys are producing should be planks. And yet none of this stuff is getting built. Why is that? Well, we can come back in here over to the Royal Forest and we can look at the accounting reports and we can see here, okay, so they are producing planks. So it's probably just that they're not producing quite enough yet to cover all of the demand over here. But as long as we can see that they're producing them, then we know that this stuff will get built eventually. Now that could also come down to this family just not having the money to buy the planks. Let's go ahead and check their, so, we click on the zone, we click on the inventory. This is the inventory of the household. So they don't actually have anything at all. Let's double check that real quick. This is the rain quartz, show the inventory. Okay, so sorry, they're not, I guess if you show the inventory, it's showing the inventory. This is interesting, I didn't even know this. It's showing the inventory of this zone. But if you come here to the villager book and you show the inventory, this is showing the inventory of the family, and they do have plenty of money. So when those planks become available, they will be buying them. Actually, I think I see now one of the reasons that the planks aren't getting into our market is because they have no storefront set up here. I don't know. Why are they not building this storefront? It's not like, there's 8 of them, right? So they should be. one of them should be available at some point to build this thing. It's not like they don't have planks, right? We can even look right here. Look at this. This ground depository has 131 planks in it. Now, to be fair, some of those they're going to be saving for the taxes because 20% of the planks they make are going to get taxed. But they only need one to build the storefront. So I really don't see any reason why. They're not building this. I think that okay, so one more thing real quick. I'm just noticing that this, like, you could see they're clearing this area out pretty quick, I guess because there's 8 of them. So let's go ahead and expand the zone. Just give them a little more breathing room. We don't want them running out of trees to harvest, right? That would be that then they would begin performing suboptimally, and we want to keep everybody performing as best as they can. There we go. They just built the storefront, and you can even see here resources sold from stock. They're now selling 86 planks. So some of this stuff over here should start getting built. In fact, let's prioritize this storefront too, so that when the farming family comes over and buys any plank, there you go, they'll build the storefront, right? And now all this food that they're going to be producing, they can start selling off to the people here in town, right? To my foragers and my fishers. Actually, speaking of the fishers, let's take a look at them. We haven't returned to them in a while. Looks like they finally did finish building their fishing rods. Let's go ahead and take a look at. You can see the priorities here. It's literally just fish for them. There's nothing going on here. When we go to products, we can see that they are producing fish, right? They've produced 28 fish. 5 of it is being taxed to me and 2 to the clergy, but of course the clergy tax will not get paid because we have no clergy. So we're gonna get when this season ends, we're about halfway through the season now, and they've produced enough fish for us to be taxed 5. So we'll probably get about 10 fish when all is said and done. Now that's really not that much, but it's fine. There's just 2 of them. They're just a little family, and they're just going to be pumping just a little bit of fish into our economy, and that's really all we need to worry about them for. We can honestly just leave them completely alone, probably until they die. The other thing about them is that they are oh no, this guy's an adult. So they're both adults. So there's the possibility that they might have children. Once they get to the old age, I think they stop having children. And you can see she's 4 years old and he's 4. Old age will be reached 15 years. They have a good 9 years to produce children. So I assume this fishing family will grow over time. And the way that time works in this game, by the way, you can see that. So there are when we set it up, the standard is 15 days per season. I think that at this max speed, each day takes 1 minute, so each season takes 15 like real world minutes. So 4 seasons is 1 full hour. So at like keeping everything just at the max speed without changing it, these 2 people should stay alive for 9 real world hours of playtime, if my estimations are correct. I don't know if that's quite right, but I do think that that's right. I could be a little off there, but either way, each season does feel like it takes about an hour to play through, and that's assuming that you don't ever slow down to build something or anything like that. I find that I can keep things on 4 speed, like, I guess 8 times speed, a lot these days as I play. But especially when I was really getting used to the game, I definitely was I was either pausing it or keeping it on 1 speed while I was like building things out, laying out like a floor plan, because it sort of gave me a little bit of anxiety seeing everybody rush around so quickly while I was like stumbling through trying to figure something out. But now that I kind of have a handle on it, I tend to just keep things at 8 times speed. But you play at your own pace. But anyway, so we have our farm set up, we have our foragers set up, and we have our fisher set up. And I think that that's going to be the episode. We can worry about getting our rulers set up on this side of the river over here come episode 2. Thank you all so much for listening and watching. Again, leave me any comments, or leave me comments in the thing, and let me know how you guys like this. Like I said, I've never made a YouTube video before. I've never done this, so I'm hoping that I get some viewers. I hope that I get a little bit of an audience, and I look forward to interacting with you all. Yeah, have a good one, everybody.